Next photo in Skill Builder 1 is going to be the cat photo. So we're going to adjust that. So we'll do, once again, open from computer, find where that is. If you're just going one after another, hopefully it'll just pop up for you. So we're looking for this photo. My other ones I've edited for class. So I'm going to say open. It's going to load it in a second. All right, so you might encounter this where you open a photo and it's not rotated correctly. So first thing you would want to do if it doesn't have the correct orientation is we are going to go to Image, Transform, and then we can rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise, and we can see that it rotates it. Now when it did that, it did cut off the top and bottom just with our view. So I'm going to use the Control minus to zoom out, and then I can see the whole picture. Now, when we do our crop for this, so we want to set up our composition. This is a photo that's already cropped in quite a bit. We can clean it up just a tiny bit, but when we're doing this, and we have the crop tool right here, and we're doing the free crop, once again, I like to start on the outside and click and drag and then move it in. We want to make sure we keep it a rectangle when we're doing this. So the eyes are the main focal point of this picture. So I want to kind of keep the eyes on the rule of thirds. And I can even kind of pull in some of that right side. Okay. Avoid cropping as a square or a really long rectangle. So I don't want to crop like this. So I want to keep that rectangular shape. But I don't want to crop it too skinny. Like this, because then that's not proportionate to what my original image is. So we're trying to try and keep the proportions of the original image. So we're not going to do much of a crop on this, but we're just going to pull that top and right in a little bit more to get it closer to rule of thirds. So you'll press enter. Now, once we've set up the composition, we've cropped, next thing we're going to do is balance our value and our color. So we're doing that through adjustments. So click here for adjustments, that half black, half white circle. We'll start with levels. So once again, we're looking at the values in this picture. This time the histogram is showing us that most of our values are all the way in the darker area, not a lot in the highlights or midtones. So that shows me that I don't really need to adjust the darks too much. I could maybe bring them to the right a tiny bit, but I don't really want to do that a lot. Now when I bring the highlights up, I do have some really white areas here, and I can actually see that on my histogram right on the edge. But I don't want to bring this up too much so that it starts to get rid of all the value in there. So I'm going to do a slight adjustment with the highlights, and then I'm going to see a bigger difference when I bring up those midtones. So I want to adjust and expose for the eyes. So when I bring those midtones up, then it really kind of pops the picture more. It does not make my darks as dark anymore, so I'm actually going to go to the darks and just darken them a little bit. So then I get that crisp contrast and those textures coming through. All right, next we were going to do some color adjustments. We don't need to do a lot for this, but always go in and do some of those adjustments. So we'll go back to vibrance and saturation. The eyes, I want to try and bring out some of that color in the eyes, which is greenish. So I'll bring up that vibrance to the right to kind of pop that color that way, and I can bring it up quite a bit. Saturation is mostly going to be warm color, so I don't want to overdo it. None of this, that's too much. It starts to become more grainy and oversaturated, so we'll just bring saturation up just a little bit. Something new I want you to try with this one, I'm going to stretch this back out, is down in the bottom, go to adjustment. We're going to click on hue saturation this time. And what this is going to do is you can adjust the hue for the whole picture. In this case, we're not going to want to do that because we don't want our cat to look crazy colors. We're trying to get realistic colors that just pop out. We'll adjust saturation and lightness and all these things once we choose a range. So master is going to change every color. With the range, you can choose specific colors. So maybe I'll try and get the greens and the eyes to pop out. So I'm going to move this to the side so I can see it better. So I can adjust saturation. I'm going to start with that. So if I bring the saturation all the way up, you can see actually where the greens are in the photo. Definitely don't want it to look like that. So I'll just bring them up a little ways. There's not as much green in there as I thought. I could also try maybe yellows. Maybe there's some yellow in there and try and saturate the yellows a little bit more. Just know it's going to do it for your whole picture or anywhere there's the yellow, so don't overdo it. All right. And then as an example with this, you could change the hue. So once again, this time it's just changing the hue of the yellow spots only. But I'm going to leave that at 0, and I want you to leave that at 0 as well. Okay, so we're just popping that color a little bit, and then we can't forget about color balance. So we want to neutralize any odd tints to the picture, so we're going to go to color balance. This doesn't really have much of an odd tint, but you can, I'm looking at my range right now, I'm in highlights. Oftentimes if we want to make things look a little bit bluer or a little bit whiter, excuse me, we can pull it towards the blue, so I increase the blues. This photo is already kind of cool because it was taken by a window, so it's got cool light coming in. So I'm actually decreasing the blues a little bit more to bring out the yellows or the warm colors. That's all we'll do for this one. We made some easy adjustments, quick adjustments that really helped it. So if we go to when we cropped, that's what it looked like before. And then afterwards, we are able to bring out that contrast and that color a little bit more. You are going to save this as a PSD as well as a JPEG to turn it in.